Carrie, you're muted. Oh, we lost your microphone.
What's going on the other end? You're all set.
No. Sit over here.
I know what happened. Carrie, go to your desk phone and call me.
Maybe.
Carrie Nautilillo, go to your desk phone and call me. She can't hear me.
You can't hear.
Can you hear me, Kerry?
No, she can't hear any of us.
Can't hear anybody.
There's a problem with something that happened. We got to hold on 2 seconds before we can start this.
No problem.
I'm calling her.
Hey, Joe. Oh,
Yes, Ray, I'm here.
while you're trying to do that, on the attendees, I got Felix, Jeffrey, Burt, Florio. I got
Yep.
three. I got
Hold on
three.
1 second so I can talk to Carrie. Carrie, you there?
Yeah,
All right, hold on. I'm going to explain.
You're hearing now. Let's roll back. You know, that's kind of a curious area that you're in. Let me roll back. You're very flattened. You really don't have to be in. What?
You're better than the rest of them.
Oh, yeah, right.
Hey, I'm on. I got no problem. Oh, wait, let's put a piece of tape over here.
I have it right up there. On a shelf. See it?
Why do people go in and out though?
I don't know. I don't know what's happening. Where the hell did Nancy go? The other Nancy.
Oh, I don't know.
Is it? JP, is your microphone muted?
I'm assuming yes.
Not now.
Okay.
I keep it muted so you hear the background noise. I don't want to hear, you know how you can hear everybody talking in the background?
Oh, okay.
So I mute that way if my phone rings.
Okay, now
Oh,
we got
okay.
rid of three carrying that. We got one carrying that. Now two.
Still deleting them. Yeah, your tail's right under where the wheel is. Put it back where. You gotta do what you gotta do. You know what I mean? Jelly bean.
Unless he's one of those carrying that alone.
Look at that. So anyways,
Watch out, they can hear you.
there's all the stuff. I'm gonna see if I can shred some more. No. And
There's Nancy Parenti.
I had it all in
Yes,
piles,
yeah.
you know, what saved, what unsaved, you know, what to shred or whatever, right? And the power goes off.
They can hear you.
I'm just, fuck it.
All right.
And the power goes off. I'm like, really? Really? Well,
Hey, Bert, are you on? Bert,
see Nancy,
here we go again.
maybe he can't hear you. No, maybe he's doing something. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna put that power back.
Yep. Mary Ann's all set. Oh, Miguel's me. Miguel Nunez. Sure. Yep. Right. Ray, me, Nancy. Is Bert?
I don't know where Bert is. All right, Carrie, I'm gonna hang up because we can hear each other on the computer now.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay.
All right, Ray, you're good to go. You can start your meeting.
Okey
Oh, boy.
Okie dokie.
All right.
The meeting of the West Warwick Board of Canvassers for August 5th, 2020.
Something's wrong.
What?
Bye.
It's all jumbled. All your words are jumbled. You're not
Mine?
coming across. No, you sound like you're talking into.
Mary Ann, that's your Wi-Fi connection. That's not on anybody else's end.
What should I do? All right. Now what do I do?
You gotta get off the Wi-Fi or get a better connection over
Huh?
there.
Rachel's gonna go and fix it for her.
So- yeah, okay. I'll be back.
All right, Ray, go ahead. Get going. You're good.
All right. How long is it going to take you, Mary Ann?
It's not letting me do it on my phone, I don't think.
You don't know. All right. Okay. Again, the meeting of the West Warwick Board of Canvassers for August 5th, 2020 at 3 p.m. is hereby called to order at 3:10 p.m. Members present, Chairperson Ray Lambert, Vice Chairperson Nancy LeBlanc. Bert, are you on? Okay, Bert was on, but he's not on now. And alternate member Nancy Parenti.
Ray.
Yes,
right
I'm
there.
here.
Okay, and JP Millette. So we have two voting members and two alternates. We have four members. We have a quorum and we can transact our business. The only item on our agenda is the number and location of the polling location for the September 8th primary, statewide primary. Let me start it off by saying we have a disagreement apparently with the Board of Elections. Miguel Nunez is on.
He is in the public. Yeah, Ray, he's in the public.
Okay. Can he hear me?
They can hear you, but they're not gonna be able to talk unless we want them to talk.
Oh, yeah, the palm. Okay.
Okay?
All right. We worked very diligently to work out a system where everything could be covered, the COVID problems and everything else. And Mary Ann and Kerry worked very diligently. The board that I polled agreed that the best thing for the voters and for everything involved was one polling place, the Civic Center. We have with us on the Zoom meeting, Lori Swanson, the director of the Civic Center. She did a heck of a job making diagrams and doing everything. And she's got people coming in and going out different doors and everybody will be protected. However, we have consternation in the ranks. The Board of Elections says they want 3 polling places. And I don't believe we need 3. Mary Ann, by the way, do you want to add something to what I just said?
Hold on, I think she's on the.
You hear me? Hello?
Yeah, okay. Bert
Bert.
is now on.
Yeah. Well, this is what happened the last meeting. I got cut off halfway through.
All right, you're on. We can hear you. Mary Ann, do you want to add to what I said about the Board of Canvassers wanted to do one polling place, a Civic Center, because of all the rubrics involved? Do you want to add?
Well, I think, and I sent something out as far as that goes. Here's the thing, as far what I was thinking of, I wasn't really thinking of 3 or 4. My initial was 10. The reason I wanted 10 was even though there would be a very low turnout and we could do it with a very low number of staff, in much, almost half the staff for the 3 we're speaking of, and we could pull it off. It won't, it would take 50 staff for 10 locations. So, but it'd be very low turnout. It wouldn't, and we wouldn't disenfranchise the voter at all. It would be convenience. The next I thought of was because not 10, we're not using 10, 1, because the Civic Center is so huge, you could easily cordon off 3 polling places right in there.
You pick up the other phone, Trey. What was it after?
What?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Mary.
Half the amount of staff, and and it would all be one-stop shopping where they've done that for the last 2 elections. Once again, trying to keep some continuity. I was told that's not a good idea. I started playing and playing and playing. And when I say that, I have spent days, not hours, days coming up with stuff. 3 would be the only thing I could think of that could work at this point. It's just too much confusion with 4. And Miguel and I did go over 4. I felt like the 3 was the better option if we can't have 1. My own personal feeling is we could do an incredible job in the Civic Center with no thought to any other polling place and do that for now and for November. It would be a very simple transition, but the Board of Elections does not want just 1 polling place. So as I said, I sent to everyone, if you're looking in your emails, a little breakdown of 1 and of 3 to show you. I also thought we had a lot of parents worried about you know, you can say you're going to clean as much as you want, but we clean, and I explained this before. If you come in my building for municipal court, first of all, there's only 2 allowed in at a time, and we clean in between each one of them. When you're talking 300, 400, 500 people, you're not cleaning in between each one of them. I have a problem with schools because kids will be going the next day. As a parent, as a grandparent, I have a big problem with hundreds of people coming through it and everybody saying, "Oh, we'll just clean it up tomorrow." I don't want my kid going there. Okay. But that's so I said, well, let's look at churches. Church is barely happening anymore. You reserve half the churches on Sunday anyway, and they're not using their community rooms. Let's use the churches and their community rooms. So I went about looking at Sacred Heart and I went about looking at Christ the King. They both can accommodate. They both have plenty of handicap parking. They're at separate ends of the town, would accommodate the voter. It would accommodate the voting place. So that's why I think schools as a rule are ideal. I've been in elections over almost 25 years. I've loved working in schools. This isn't the year to be putting hundreds of people into schools. And that's my own personal opinion. So that's where I'm at as far as going. What are we going to do? What are we going to do to make sure we pull this election off in a month, by the way? So,
All right, Mary Ann, but in other words, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but your first choice would be 1 polling place, Civic Center. Second choice would be 3 polling places, 2 churches, and the Civic Center. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Nancy LeBlanc.
Yes. Well, I'm kind of in favor of just the Civic Center because of the numbers, and school isn't in session, so there'd be no cars from the high school and in the parking lot, and there's ample parking there. I think that they could accommodate all the voters, and there'd be space in between for the 6 feet apart. And it worked well with the PPP and the referendum with the sanitizing tables coming in. They could be offered a mask if they didn't have one. It worked very well. I thought it went very smooth. So my preference is the 1 place for a number of reasons. Number of poll workers, expense on the town, and the Board of Canvassers could all be in 1 place at the Civic Center.
Let me also add to that when we did the PPP, we did it at the Civic Center with 1 polling place. And as luck would have it, Nellie Gorbea came. She was investigating a couple of polling places, and she happened to stop at ours. So I showed her around. I introduced her to our workers, and did whatever. And she said, "This is beautiful." She said, "You could put much more than 1 polling place in here." As a matter of fact, she had an aide with her who took a picture. I don't know what happened to that, but she was in favor of that. That 1 point. And we accommodated the whole town for the PPP. We didn't know who was coming. We accommodated the whole town for the all-day referendum. Almost 1,000 people came to vote without one problem. We didn't have 1 single solitary problem. And the big thing is I didn't hear of anybody getting COVID-19 coming to the Civic Center. And most people came in and said, "Hey, this is great. They take our temperature, they sanitize, we got a mask here, we've got stuff for the hands, and they wait in line." Nobody said a word at either one of those elections. Brett,
I'm in favor of one voting place, and I survived the PPP, and I'm really vulnerable because I got diabetes, and I feel real safe and secure at the Civic
Really?
Center. And we didn't have, and Nancy survived, and she's not far behind me in age. And
Thanks.
we didn't have any complaints, and it went along just as smooth as silk. It was unbelievable. And I was there all day. And Ray, how did you make out when you had your meeting on Saturday or Sunday with proposals?
I'll discuss that with Miguel Nunez. It wasn't a meeting, the phone call with Bob Raposo. All right.
Okay.
Nancy Parenti, you want to add anything?
No. We can use the Civic Center. I don't care.
You're in favor of one polling place?
Yes.
Okay. JP?
Absolutely one polling place.
Well, that's 5-0. I know that Nancy Parenti and JP don't vote, but I always let them talk and receive their input. And that's 5-0. Now, with that said,
Ray, can I say something? Ray?
Yeah, go ahead.
Marion, as I look at this, as we broke it down, just for information, with the Civic Center, there would be 4 stations that would accommodate Sen 9, Rep 25, Sen 9, Rep 26, Sen 5, Rep 27, Sen 27, Rep 26. They would be accommodated there, and the number of staff for one polling place is 25. The number of staff for 3 is 46. We would all, of course, provide the same disinfecting and all the things that would go on throughout the day. But just so that you see the expense of it involved in multiple locations as well, I very much think that the Board of Elections is looking at multiple locations. But that's another factor to consider when we're thinking of monetarily, at least.
all right. Before I get to Miguel and Kerry, Lori Swanson is on our Zoom meeting, and she's
Right.
director of the Civic Center.
Ray, Joe Florio in the public has had his hand up to make a comment.
Yeah. Well, I got to get through these people first. Lori, tell us about
right.
the Civic Center.
Just
You're gonna
voted.
have
All right.
Hi.
Tell us about the Civic Center.
So the Civic Center is 23,000 square feet. There is enough entrances and exits that they would come in one way and everyone would go out a different way. You can coordinate it off to however many stations that you'd like to have for voting. And I don't know if it's by wards or, I'm not sure if it's by districts or however you're going to do it, but I'm very thorough. I will make sure that there are adequate signs that are posted. There'll be arrows on the floor. Everybody will keep.
Laura, you won't have to do any of that. That's all ours. We just want to know about the logistics of the building. You don't have any responsibility. We'll take care of all that.
Tell us about whether you feel comfortable putting in the entire town of West Warwick voting in the Civic Center, Lori.
Yes, I completely feel comfortable. I know that the last 2 elections, everything was set forth and we were good.
All right, let me ask you one more question.
Okay.
You have been receiving backlash from parents about using the schools. Is that correct?
I have heard parents not happy and they would rather it be the way that it was for the all-day referendum. They just feel safer for their children. And I'm a parent too, so I do understand. I did see the people that chose not to wear masks because you can't make them wear the mask. So I did see the people that did come in the previous 2 elections and that did not wear masks. They did not use sanitizer. So, I mean, I think overall for the safety of our children that we just do it here. I have a machine that will clean everything with bleach after, and I do have workers that would be here that would constantly be cleaning too, so.
Okay. Kerry, you want to add anything?
No, I'm like, you guys decide, you tell me what needs to be done. This is like, it's a lot. It's just a lot for, we've done it 2 elections. We haven't had no issues. So I don't know where this is all starting from.
Okay. Joe who? What did you say? We had Joe Florio with his hand.
There was two
Florio,
people.
and there's another person in the public that keeps putting their hand up to
All right,
comment, so.
put on Joe Florio.
All right, so we'll allow Joe Florio to talk. He can unmute himself. And Joe, if you unmute yourself, you'll be able to talk.
Joe Florio.
Joe
No,
Florio.
he's still
are you here?
muted.
Yeah, he's gonna unmute himself.
How's that?
There you go.
Joe.
Go ahead, you have your hand up.
I was impressed with the way the last voting went when we did the primary there, and the way it was set up. I'm leery of going out because of my health condition, but the way it was set up and the way it went, I was really pleased with it. You guys did a real nice job. And as far as I'm concerned, one polling place would be fine. Can anybody see me?
No.
No,
But we
you must
heard
have-
everything you said. We heard everything you said. Joe, I assume you're on here speaking for the Republican Town Committee.
I'm speaking for myself. I'm not sure if they've given me permission, but because I represent the town, the part of that as information, and I'm on the board there, I'm sure I'm representing them, yes.
Okay. Joe who? Who is 96418?
We're gonna find out right now. All right. Who is calling in from 964-18605? I'm not sure. Somebody that's got their hand up. You should be able
That's
to.
me, Stephen Alves.
Stephen Alves. Okay. Hi, Steve.
Hi,
All right.
how are you?
Go
Good. How
ahead.
you doing? You can speak, Steve. Go ahead.
Okay. My take, I agree that it should be 3 voting places. I respectfully disagree about having one in the Civic Center. You know, when you say multiple entrances, there's really only one entrance and one exit for a disabled person.
Oh,
Yes, they have the 2 on the side where you have to walk up steps and 2 in the back of the building. When you walk up the ramp, there's only those doors to walk in there. The other ones, you'd have to walk along the sidewalk and go in the middle of the building. And the other one, you'd have to go in the back doors of the freight entrance.
There have been no problems at all with people
Listen.
getting.
Listen, we're talking about an election, okay? Now, we already know we have to have 3 places. You know, in the city of Warwick, in the same senatorial district committee, there's 5 polling places. And that's pretty standard throughout the state. Also, when you talk about accessibility and access, why we would have, in confusing voters, why we would use Sacred Heart over Wakefield Hills is beyond me. Sacred Heart hasn't been a polling place in 20 years. Wakefield Hills has been used every year for a primary and general. And we've all spoken to the superintendent of schools, who turned around and said, it's absolutely fine to use that. She has full control over the use of the schools. And I don't know what parents you're saying, or you can identify who's called you about not using the school is beyond me, because we're just talking about this right now. So I don't know where you're getting that. And as far as cleanup, both the superintendent and if you talk to the State Board of Elections, there is money available to have it all clean and sanitized before any student entrance. And with the Wakefield Hills, it's just the cafeteria. And it's my understanding that even when schools open, that will be not used for students under COVID. So why we would change all of these people that usually vote at Wakefield Hills, send them into the Wakefield Church basement, the Sacred Heart Church basement, which it's my understanding, they have steps to go into it.
No, they don't.
no, they don't.
No, they don't.
Turn around. But you're turning around talking about confusion about where people voted. When was the last time? And there's only one person on the ballot at Sacred Heart, as opposed
We're going
to
by
what we've done.
senatorial congressional districts. We're not going by
No,
ward.
sir. No, there isn't. There's not a there is not a senatorial primary there.
But we're doing
Yes,
this.
there is. Yes, there is.
Is there a Republican?
Jeff Roussel and John Burke have one of the precincts that would normally vote.
No,
It's
they
Anna
don't.
Gallo that doesn't have it.
Yeah.
It's one precinct, one out of 10.
I'm not saying that. All I'm just saying is Sacred Heart has not been used. The basement, they used to use the school. The basement has never been used as a polling place. And why would we do it now when Wakefield Hills, very accessible, lots of parking, there's no school, and we have the superintendent's blessing to use all the schools for now and the general election.
Is she
And this has
speaking
been
for the
happening
parents?
this has been happening across the state. And when we turn around and talk about every senatorial district has 30,000 voters, 30,000 residents, okay?
Yeah,
and
not
the
voters.
Voters, and this is all it's just a guesstimate where you're saying, I don't think there's going to be many people. You don't know that. I don't know that. None of us know. None of us know.
Wakefield School
So
isn't
if
on
we're
the
going
table.
to
We're
have
talking about
three-
two churches.
Wait a minute, one at a time. Who wants to speak?
Go ahead.
Mary Ann, go ahead.
I was just saying, Wakefield Hill School is not on the table at this point. We're talking about if we have to have two churches and a civic center.
Yeah, but my point is that why are you saying the school is off the table when you called them, you asked them about it, and then they said yes, and now 5 minutes ago we hear Sacred Heart, which
No,
has
no,
never
you
been
didn't
a
say that
poll.
5 minutes
Wait a
ago.
minute.
Wait a minute,
Wait a
how
minute.
do you know we called them? I did call Karen Tarasevich myself.
That's right, and so did Mary Ann.
A month ago. Okay.
How do you
No,
know that?
No, this was just a week ago.
No, I talked to her
Just a week
last
ago,
week.
and
I talked
and they
to
turned
council
around
last
and
week.
offered the use of the schools, which has been used for since it's been built.
Steve, you know how many places I called as we were putting this together to see if in fact that place would be available for our use, so we could make our decision based on
Did you
what was
or did
available.
you not? Did you did or did not the superintendent of schools saying yes, the schools were available?
Well, before
Wait a
that.
minute. Let me jump. Wait a minute.
We
Let
had
me
a
jump in
meeting
here.
last
Let me
week.
jump in here, please. I called her. I think she called me on Monday of this week. Here's what she said. I said, are the schools open? No, they're closed for primary day. Thank you. Do we have your permission to use the schools to vote? Yes. What about the parents? She says, well, I don't know about that. In other words, what about the parents? And that's
Listen.
one of Mary Ann's concern, the parents.
Right.
I don't want all those voters in that school.
Well, I'm concerned about the voters also, and trust me, Karen, the superintendent of schools, is a great school leader, and she certainly listens to everyone, and she certainly wouldn't be offering the school if she thought she was putting her staff or students at risk. So,
Well, we appreciate her
Karen's
offering, and she was
Wait
one
a
of the
minute.
options.
What the point of the matter is, last week when we were on the phone, you didn't even realize that it wasn't an all-mail ballot election.
It was what?
You didn't even know it wasn't an all-mail ballot election. And now in the 11th hour, we're just discussing places with no public input after the Board of Elections said 3 spaces, and we're in the 11th hour. Make no mistake.
We're a month away from this primary. We're not in
Excuse
the
me.
11th hour.
Excuse me, I have a question. Now,
Go ahead, Nancy LeBlanc.
Bob Raposa, last Friday, he made the suggestion of just having the Civic Center. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And
Well,
then
we have someone from the Board of Elections there.
We do. You can ask Miguel to come on.
yes,
Yeah.
let's put Miguel on.
Yeah, let's see
Joe.
what he.
Joe who?
Yes, go ahead, Ray.
Can you put Miguel Nunez on?
Nunez.
All right. Yes, Felix Apollonia has had his hand up for a while Mr. Alves was talking to speak. Can we acknowledge
Okay.
Felix first?
No,
Yep.
I want
Oh.
to talk to Miguel.
You want to talk to Miguel? Okay,
Yes.
all right. Miguel has been turned on.
Okay.
Miguel, you need to unmute yourself to talk.
I am unmuted.
Okay. Did you hear all the discussion, Miguel?
I did.
Okay. What's your take?
So unfortunately, this decision that you're talking about had to be made quite a while ago. We requested that the local board submit their selections of polls for the September 8th primary. The deadline to do that was back on July 1st, and we requested that be done by the local boards. And we actually had to set them by July 20th. And at that time, the West Warwick had submitted to open 10 precincts. Now, after that, after statewide, we've gotten numerous requests from local boards for assistance because they're either A, having difficulty getting locations to participate as polling places, or B, they're having tremendous difficulty getting poll workers. We've allowed further consolidation after that deadline, but the same amount of precincts are being opened technically, but they're just being consolidated into certain precincts, into certain locations within the town. So, and my board actually earlier today, about an hour ago, voted to open the number of the 3 locations, to allow to open the 3 locations in West Warwick. So we're at the point here that our machines have to be programmed. We're doing LNA testing starting next Wednesday, a week from today. We have to program all of the equipment that has to go out statewide, including West Warwick, so that these machines can be effectively tested. And in fact, today we're sending to the Secretary of State's office, we will be sending them the list of polling places statewide as well, which will go on to their voter information center very soon. So unfortunately, our board has already voted on the number of polling precincts being opened, which is 226, but also the number of physical locations that are being opened. So in West Warwick, our board voted to approve the 10 precincts which were originally requested, but those are going to be consolidated into the three locations, which the town clerk, Mary Ann Kelly, submitted to us as the request. According to Barbara Poser, she did that via email. So as far as I see here, you have the Civic Center with 828 voters excuse me. Right now, we're projecting that we're going to have primarily mail ballot primary. So we project that about 50% of voters will cast their vote by mail, and 50% of that number will cast their vote at the polls. So you're basically looking at 12 to 13% of voters actually casting their vote at the poll. So the way I see it here, you're going to have projected 828 voters go to the Civic Center. That's 63 voters per hour. You're going to have 753 voters go to Sacred Heart Church, which would be 58 voters per hour. And you would have Christ the King Church, 947 voters in person for the day. And that's 73 per hour. That is because most of the voters are in fact going to do a mail ballot rather than go to the polls. So as far as we're concerned, the 3 locations are being opened in West Warwick, and that's what my board voted on a little while ago. And at this point, we're too far into the process right now to make any changes, because we got to get this equipment tested and ready to be shipped out to the polls in time for September 8th.
Let me ask you a question. This is Ray Lambert, the chairman. Under what color of authority? Now, we know that the polling places, you come down and check them for the availability of disabled people and stuff, but under what color of authority does the Board of Elections, and I'm just asking this question, what color of authority did the Board of Elections have to say to West Warwick, no, you can't use that poll, you're using this poll?
So
Just the poll.
Rhode Island General Law 1715-13 requires that the polls be set 50 days prior to any primary.
17, 15, 13, okay.
And then 1715-5 allows for combinations by the local board, but only upon approval of the Board of Elections, which is where
it does say that upon approval. So if we said, if our board right now voted one polling place, you can overrule it.
Correct. It's already been overruled because it's already been voted on by my board.
Fine, because now we've got it on on the Zoom meeting. So in other words, you heard the 5 of us, the 3 voting members and the 2 non-voting members all say one polling place. So you're saying that the Board of Elections is overruling that, right?
We're saying that the time to make this decision is past. There are merits. I heard all the arguments here about the Civic Center. I didn't find any disagreement with them. I thought they were all valid arguments about using it. I mean, we figured if you use the Civic Center, you'd have about 2,600 people go through the Civic Center on election day, with the rest of them voting by mail. That would be about 200 voters per hour going through the Civic Center. But the problem is not that. The problem is that we're too far along in the process right now to make these changes. This data has to get into these machines, and it needs to get into the Secretary of State's website so that voters can look up their polling location.
So had we got you one polling place by the deadline that you speak of, you could have still overruled us, or no?
Yes.
In other words, say we put in the Civic.
We already did that, Ray. We went to them and we asked them about one polling place and we were overruled. That's right.
Okay, well, I want to clarify.
Yep.
Because Miguel's making it sound like it's too late now. But if you came a month ago, we would have approved the Civic Center. But the answer is no. Right?
I don't think the Board of Elections, as far as Miguel, you can say I'm wrong, but I think they're not in favor of the one place. I think they want multiple locations throughout the town.
Our preference is the 3 because it does give more coverage throughout the town with the 3. And I think that's fair for access to voters throughout the town. But we understand we're in uncertain times with COVID-19. We're being flexible, but at this point, our flexibility is limited. We are happy about the 3 locations. My board voted, and West Warwick was specifically discussed in the meeting today. And the board was comfortable with the 3 locations, and that's why they voted on them.
And those 3 locations are the Civic Center, Christ the King, and Sacred Heart.
Correct.
Is that correct, Miguel?
That is correct.
Okay. Anybody got any questions of Miguel?
The only thing that I brought up with Mary Ann today, which is that she indicated that the schools were not available to be used, and Christ the King, I did note to her that Christ the King Church was last used in 2018. And the voters from that precinct for this election will be going to the Civic Center, but Christ the King will be open for election day for other voters from different precincts, but just not from those same voters that voted there in 2018.
We know that. We know where the precincts are. Mary Ann's got it laid out. 4 precincts at Civic Center, 3 at Sacred Heart, and 3 at Christ the King. Am I right,
as long as you make sufficient notice, and get the word out there to voters, then you should have no issues with that.
Any Nancy LeBlanc, Nancy Parenti, JP, Bert, any questions of Miguel Nunez?
No, I don't.
No.
Okay,
No,
so
no.
for the record, the 5 members of the West Warwick Board of Canvassers wanted one polling place, and we have been overruled. It's supposedly too late to submit that, but the Board of Elections prefer 3, and Miguel gave me cites as to what they have the authority to overrule our Board of Canvassers. Okay. With that said, now we've got 3 polling places. What's the board's? Oh, wait a minute. Somebody got their hands up here.
Right, you've got Felix Apollonia and Pat Serpa, who both had their hands up.
All right, Felix Apollonia.
All right, so Felix, you can unmute yourself and you'll be able to speak.
I am. Thanks, Ray.
Yep.
Just a couple of things. Miguel from the Board of Elections cited some numbers and an average number of voters that are going to access the Civic Center per hour. I think if we look at, we all know what peak time is. We all know off peak and peak. We have a pretty good idea what the peak times are. So I think we need to be realistic and understand what it's going to be like to have a significant number of cars during peak time coming in, a significant number of people per minute walking through those doors. Obviously, off peak is lower, but peak time is higher. And I'm not sure if we've understood off peak and peak time, but it's significantly different. There's a few hours a day where you get a lot more voters at one time. I think there could be some access with the number of vehicles during peak time. That's number one. The second thing, we have a ward, we have a Rep 27 primary and a Senate 9 primary, including Ward 4 and 5, which are heavily populated wards. I think we should have, I have a problem with not having polling places in Ward 4 and Ward 5. I think we need a polling place in Ward 4 and 5 in the Civic Center in Wakefield Hills. I think we're asking for problems sending all those people from Ward 4 and Ward 5 into Christ the King, which they've never voted in. It's in Ward 3. I think,
Felix, they never voted in the Civic Center either, and they managed to get there.
That's different for the PPP. That's different. We're
Felix,
talking
we
about-
appreciate, Felix, we appreciate the thought, but apparently 3 polling places, Sacred Heart, Christ the King, and the Civic Center have already been approved by the Board of Elections.
I understand what you're saying, but understand off-peak and peak time with traffic, et cetera, Ray. We haven't talked about off-peak and peak, and we know what it's like.
I understand that, but the people will have to just adjust. I mean, what can I tell you?
There's always peak and off-peak. There's always peak and off-peak. We do take things into consideration, Felix. It's not like you're telling us something we never knew before.
I don't think we've discussed off-peak and peak.
Maybe not with you. Maybe not with you, but it's been discussed.
I think, Mary Ann, I think Miguel raised some numbers. Total for the day and an average per hour. We have not talked about what peak time is per hour. We talked about an average.
Felix, we know if we're going to get 1,000. We know if we're going to get 1,000.
It has not been vetted. Mary Ann, it has not been vetted. It has not been discussed in detail, and I think we should.
Felix, at one time you said to me that you thought the Civic Center could be the only poll if you want to vet.
Until I thought about peak and off-peak access.
Yep.
Okay. There's a little bit more to this than that. I'm concerned about access during peak time, and I think we should be. And I don't think
oh my God! Felix, you're not the only one thinking of this stuff. We have to think about everything. Peak. We now have the polling places, okay? Now we start discussing how we're going to handle this, that, and the other thing. But I mean, let's get today.
Mary Ann, you're conducting an election for District 27, Rep District 27, and Senate 9, and for 4 and 5 with no polling place in those districts.
Okay,
you've got
Felix.
Everybody leaving Ward 4 and Ward 5 and Senate and Rep District 27. They're going to be forced to go to a place they've never been before.
Once again, we got to go to the Civic Center.
We're all at a place we've never been before right now.
Right. The last election, we had 10 polling places open. There was no COVID. So, they've got to adjust. I mean, what are you going to spoon feed everybody? They've got to adjust. And also, I would imagine that the candidates themselves in these primaries would say, hey guys, now remember, you got to go here, you got to go there. We're not voting here now. We got to go there.
Ray, we didn't get one complaint about people being confused about their polling place in the last 2 elections. Not one complaint. Not one. Nobody was confused about their polling place. We did our due diligence, Felix, and I want you to know we're going to do it again. There's going to be postcards. It's going to be posted. It's going to be advertised. It's going to be everywhere I can possibly put it. I'll do robocalls, everything. We're not
Christ the King is only Rep District 27 and Senate 9. Why can't Rep District 27 be in Ward 4 or Ward 5? Why does it have to be in Ward 3? It's
the
one
3
rep
polling
district.
places are set, Felix. The 3 polling places are set.
It's one rep district.
Felix, I'm going to answer that.
Oh my God.
The board does not want to use the 2 schools. That's 2 polling places in Ward 5. The 2 in Ward 4 are Maisie Quinn, which is another school, and St. Mary's, which can't hold it. So they're going to the Civic Center. End of story.
Right.
They're going to Christ the King, you mean?
I'm sorry, Christ the King. St.
Why
Mary's.
are we even having dialogue on this? It's already been decided by the board. We're going to have 3.
That's right.
It's already in.
Well, I'm just letting them talk. As a matter of fact, Pat Serpa has had her hand up a long time.
Ray,
wait a minute. What?
can I just say, how many people came into the Civic Center for the all-day referendum? What was that total again?
950 something, almost a grand.
Okay, so there was any problem at peak time?
Not really.
Okay, I'm just because
I don't
Miguel
know.
gave Miguel gave 828 as a number and we went over that. So I just wanted to verify, was there like
No, there was no problem.
backlash of
I
people?
sat there all day and there was no
I just
problem.
wanted to make sure because I was not there for peak time. So I just want to check
All right.
and see what,
Joe,
how
who?
they went.
Joe,
Yeah, I'm here, Ray. Patty Serpa has been acknowledged. She can
Okay,
speak.
go ahead,
I'm ready
Pat.
to hear from her.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Can you see me okay?
we can't see you, but we
Your
can hear you.
video is
The cam-
off, but we
the
can hear
video's
you.
off. You can speak.
Okay, well, I guess I have a question, number one, of Miguel. Miguel, is this a moot issue then? Number one. And I guess that's a yes or no question. And then I just want to make a couple of comments.
Miguel, are you on?
I
Yep,
am.
he is.
Okay. You want to answer a question?
The issue is moot because the decision has already been made by the state board to allow the 3 locations in West Warwick.
Okay. All right, am I still on? Can I still
Yes.
talk?
Yep,
Okay.
go ahead, Pat.
My other concern was that I initially thought the Civic Center would be okay, but then I realized when we all went to the Civic Center to vote on the budget, that was the same issue that everyone was voting on, and we're used to going there to vote on budgets. So, but after that vote, I did speak to a couple of constituents who turned around and went home because they said it was too hot to stand outside, so they didn't vote. And as we know, 2 or 3 votes wouldn't have swayed the
Pat,
outcome.
there were no lines ever the entire day. I don't know. No one had to stand outside. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, they told me they went about 4:30, 4:45.
No one stood outside. So
Well,
I don't,
that's what
I
they
have
told
no
me.
idea. That
Right.
went off without a hitch. It was beautiful.
No, I was there all day. I sat there all day. There was the only time there was a line, there might have been 8 people. They were all inside.
Okay.
Okay, then my other question, I think somebody said that the candidates will discuss with the constituents where to vote. Does
No,
that
that's
mean?
me. Pat, that's me.
okay.
I would imagine in my many years as chairman, I always made sure that the candidates told their people
Right.
where to vote. I mean, don't rely on the town or whatever, even the
Well,
party.
that was my question, Ray. So the Board of Canvassers then will not be sending out cards to the voters?
Yes,
as
oh,
to
yes.
where to-
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. We'll do our due diligence. You do yours. Yes, absolutely.
What I said, Pat, what I said is the Board of Canvassers will do their thing. But I'm sure the the people who have primaries are going to tell their people also. So it's like duplicitous, but it's great. I mean, they'll tell them, don't forget.
Well, you would hand them out with your handout, with your literature you're handing out. Say right on there what their polling place is. And when you make your calls, make sure you let them know, and you're voting at as a courtesy.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions, Pat?
Not right now. So if it's a moot issue, I guess there's just nothing else to say. Okay.
All right, let me see here. Thank you for your
Jeff
comments. Jeff Roussel's got his hand up. Joe?
Yeah, Jeff Russell, you can unmute yourself and have the floor.
Okay, hello, everyone. I am in favor of the 3 locations. My concern, though, is the parking at Sacred Heart and the access and the egress. Has that been established for that location yet?
There's plenty of parking in the rear of the church.
So
It's
you
been
would,
very well vetted. It's a new, Jeff, it's going to be a new polling place because Clyde Towers can't accommodate us
no.
any longer. So we
No,
have
Monsignor
already vetted it completely as a polling place. It was
Okay.
ready to go and COVID happened.
Jeff, I don't think you'd want Clyde Towers because people have walked by there. JP has driven by there on a beautiful day, 2 parking places when they're rolling.
yeah, no, I'm not suggesting Clyde Towers. It's too bad Wakefield Hills couldn't be utilized because that's just the perfect facility for
But
that.
that's done. That's done.
Exactly. So, so you would enter Sacred Heart in between the photo shop building and the church itself and go into the back?
Yes.
Yeah, we would have
Go
signs.
through the rear. Go
Right
in
after the
rear.
CVS.
And the polling is in the church basement?
Yes,
No. Well, it
Yes.
is, but you don't go downstairs, do you?
You don't go down.
it's
walk
in the
down any
church
stairs.
basement.
You
In
walk
the back,
straight in.
walk in the back.
Jeff,
I've never been in that building, so I'm unaware of the
There are
facility
two,
itself.
there are 2 entrances. When you park in the back, there are 2 sidewalks. And you'll find your entrance right as you start walking.
All right, but it'll be marked and people will be able to
Yes.
figure it out. Okay.
It will
Jeff,
be.
Jeff, I'm sure you've been in Christ the King. You belong there, don't you? Or you did.
Christ the King is wonderful. Yes, absolutely.
That's the parking and everything is beautiful.
I wish we had 3 other locations similar to that.
Well, so I've been told that Sacred Heart is almost the size of Christ the King, you know,
Okay.
the thing. So I don't think you'll have a problem.
Can I ask Miguel a question?
Sure, certainly.
So
Wait a minute, he's got to unmute. Wait a minute.
Miguel, you unmuted?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
all right, so we have established there's going to be 3 locations, so that there's no moving of the 3 locations to accommodate anyone at this point.
No, it's etched in stone, isn't it, Miguel?
The locations have been selected, yeah.
Okay, so Sacred Heart could not become Wakefield Hills if everyone chose to do that. It's set in stone.
No, it's set in stone. The only way, Miguel, I would imagine if Sacred Heart were to burn down, we would have to move it. But
I was gonna say if there was an emergency, there'd need be some accommodation, obviously that has to be made, but the selections have been made, the 3.
okay. That answer your questions, Jeff?
Thank you very much.
All right, looks like one more hand.
Steven,
Right, Steve Alves has got his hand back up.
Yep, go ahead.
All right, hold on. All right, Steve, you've got the floor. You got to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Miguel, one of the
Miguel,
things
come
that-
back. Go ahead,
Yes.
Steve.
One of my concerns, and when we're talking about parking, and I would hope that the Board of Elections checks to make sure the ingress and the egress is adequate over there. The other thing that needs to be accommodated, there's a school and a gymnasium that share parking lots back there. And that school will be in school for all we know, or do we know differently that school won't be in there? So that's a lot. There's only one way into the entrance of Sacred Heart in the back there, and one
There's
way
2
out
ways
that-
in.
Wait a minute.
There's
Wait a minute.
2.
Can I finish? And there's one way out that they share with CVS. There's
The
one
schools
street
will
to
be
the left
closed
of
on
the
that day.
church. To the left of the church, that's the entrance in, that you have to go up and around the building. The other way, you're competing with CVS with their windows coming out on that one street right over there. And it's on a very busy intersection with a light. And my question is, the number of parking spaces. Now, how many parking spaces do they have, Marianne? Do you know that? And how many?
Sacred Heart? At
Wait a
Sacred
minute.
Heart?
At Sacred Heart that's accessible to them, and how many handicap parking spaces are there? Because that's an issue that needs to be taken.
There's some up against the building.
Wait, it's not some. We need to know how many and how many
think
parking
4.
spaces.
4.
If we're talking,
The parking
if we're
spaces.
talking about an average, they're talking about the average of 68 people. Believe me, there's not room for 68 people to be going in and out of the back of that building. Wakefield Hills has plenty of parking, all of that. And I think one of the things that behooves not only on the board, but it also behooves the Board of Elections to make sure they're just going on your sayings. They need to actually look at how the entrance and the exit coming out of that building and the parking situation. And I think not, Miguel, if the Board of Elections looks at that, they're going to find, Miguel, have you guys been out and checked the locations?
Steve
did.
Taylor went with me. Yes.
Who?
Steve Taylor.
All right, I'd like to see the response, and I'd like to see how many. I mean, you should know how many parking places, and I'm not.
There's at least 50, Steve.
50
At least, right?
that the school doesn't use.
There's no school in session that day.
How do you know?
School's out.
Because
No,
the
sir,
They're
school's
going to
out.
close the schools on that day. All schools
No,
are going
no,
to be
that
closed.
is not. Listen, that is not a public school.
I know what
It's
you're talking about,
It's
okay?
a private school, and they dictate when they're opening or not. So, did we find that out?
Listen, apparently, Kerry, there you are, Kerry. You went out there and looked at the poll with Steve Taylor,
Yes.
and it was approved.
Yes.
Okay, and Miguel says the 3 polling places are etched in stone.
They're etched in stone. So I mean,
Miguel,
Yes.
is there room if we want to appeal that one location that we don't think is adequate for the number of people and for access for voters?
That polling place was approved It's state law requires that we look at certain aspects of a polling place when we go out to them. And it really is only, is it in the precinct boundary? Yes or no? We can allow it to be outside by our approval. Is it the room large enough? And is it free of any ADA issues? Steve Taylor went out there and inspected the location. We're not required to look at parking or lighting or any of that. However, we do have guidelines that we look at when we go out there, and we advise the local board if this is going to be a good place for this number of eligible voters. Given the fact that this type of polling place would be large enough to hold a general election, and the fact that we expect a highly reduced number of in-person voting on this September 8th primary, given the fact that most people will be doing a mail ballot, or the majority, I don't believe there will be any significant issues if it's been approved by us, which we have, and it's going to be processing significantly fewer voters than it would in a general election.
Okay, but listen, Miguel, that school is open. So how many parking places do they use? And parents, there's no school bus transportation there. It's parents bringing their children to school. And I'm not sure how many kids are in that school. And you can check, that school is open primary.
It's all set. Okay, enough discussion. It's etched in stone. If you want to appeal, by all means appeal, but it's etched in stone. Now, where the board, do you want to take a vote, or apparently we've been overruled by the Board of Elections, and it's 3 polling places, and they are Christ the King, Sacred Heart, and the Civic Center. So I guess it's really
let's have a vote on the 3 polling places.
well,
We've already voted on
A
that.
little late, Bert.
You're a little late. It's etched in stone. So
Yeah,
what
there's
I'll
really no
do,
need to vote on it, is it?
right? So Nancy LeBlanc, you have anything else to say?
No, not at this time.
Bert Mollahan, anything to say?
No, not at this time.
Nancy Parenti,
No.
JP.
Nothing.
All right, neither have I. So with that said, anybody, well, I've already asked you if you had general discussion. So having passed through our regular order of business, I will entertain a motion that we adjourn.
I so move.
I'll second that.
No, you don't vote, Nancy.
Oh,
Go ahead, Nancy LeBlanc.
no kidding.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. The meeting stands adjourned at 4:01 p.m. Thank you, Miguel.
Thanks, Miguel.
Miguel.
Welcome, it was a pleasure.
Thanks, Miguel. Thanks to all
Thanks, Miguel.
thanks to all the attendees who gave their thoughts on it. Thank you, Lori. I'll talk to you later on. Thank you, Kerry and Mary. You did a good job. And of
Thanks,
course,
Joe.
Joe, the gentleman and the scholar that he is, he handled the Zoom meeting with all.
You handled all those carries.
No problem. All right, have a good one, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.